Hi there. That's fun. Okay, we're going on to number 2. So today we are going to be talking about the social life and academic life in college because those two tend to go in hand. But first, I have a question on the social life. How much free time do you have in college? So this all depends on how your schedule is set up. Keep in mind that if you are a first year student, meaning it's your first time going to college, it's your first semester, you may not be able to choose your schedule. But if you are, have a variety of classes in the morning, the afternoon, and the evening for your first semester in college, because then you'll be able to see, do you like your morning classes, getting up at 8 a.m., which I know it doesn't sound the best, but for me, I currently, 3 days of the week I start at 8 a.m. and 2 days of the week I start at 8:30. And I craft my own schedule this semester. This is the first semester where I got to choose which class I have when. So I wasn't able to do that until my spring semester of my first year. Because the fall semester for me, someone chose my schedule for me for my first semester in college. And within my first semester in college, so the fall semester, I didn't like how I had a class that started at 3 and ended at 4:15 on Wednesdays and Fridays, especially on Fridays. And I took note of that. And I also noticed I had 2 days of the week I started at 10, the other 3 days of the week I started at 11, and I didn't like how I started so late. So this semester I start at 8 or 8:30, as I mentioned earlier. And Mondays are my longest days, where I have 5 classes, but that is only for 1 more week, which would probably be when this video is uploaded, will be the last Monday where I have it like that for the semester, and then I'll just have 4 classes and I would end at 1 o'clock. Where Tuesdays I have 3 classes and I don't end until 2:15. Same on Thursday, except I have 2 hours of free time in between my first and second class on Thursdays, where Wednesday, Friday I end at 11. So yeah, in my opinion, I prefer to start as early as possible because then I could end much earlier when it's possible, depending on when classes are available. Because sure, you could start as early as you want and end whenever you want, but you also have to keep in mind when the classes you need to take are available. So that will also determine how much free time you have and if you're willing to use the time in between classes. Like how long are your breaks? Are you able to do anything with that? Because I remember for my first semester in college, I had a lot of 1-hour breaks where I couldn't really do much. But if you do end up coming to a situation where you have these weird breaks in between your classes, honestly, I know you don't want to do this, but try to do some homework during that class. Even if you don't finish it, just do it, because then later in the day you'll be glad that you started something or maybe even completed something, because then you have more free time to have a social life, go out with friends, or go do club events or whatever is on campus, or whatever you have planned for that day. You're more able to do it if you take use of every second you have. Because my mindset is, if I'm at school, then I'll be focused at school. If I have a break, well, then I'll either go to the gym, like on Thursdays I would after my first class until my second class, because I end at 9:45 and I don't start until 1. Or I'll take the time to relax a little bit and do some assignments that I know I could easily do. So for me, that's like doing my calculus homework, because right now that's easy for me. Or it's not as annoying to do as a reading assignment, because I know that takes time because I have to annotate a certain way for each teacher. So your free time honestly depends how your schedule is set up, if you have clubs, if you're taking on a job, and if you're living on campus or not, because of that commuting time will take up your free time as well. But living on campus it depends on your choice. I have to live on campus because I'm like a 5-6 hour drive, but I had a friend that I met last semester during my first semester that she was a commuter last semester, but she switched to living on campus this one, and she says this semester, and she says if you could live on campus, live on campus. But that is also just from her point of view, and in her situation she's able to do that. So keep that in mind. As for academic questions, is it worth going to class? Should I skip class? In my opinion, it's always good to go to class, especially for the classes where you have attendance policy, meaning you receive points and it's part of your grade is showing up to class. For some of these professors, it just depends how the syllabus is written up, and be sure to highlight those and like highlight if you could skip a day in case if something comes up, or you're just everything is just it's just too much and you need a break for yourself. Take note of how many absences you're able to have per class, because it is different depending on your professor. In my opinion, it's always good to go to class when you're able to, so keep that in mind. But if you do have to miss a day, make the days you miss class like worth it. Like it's a sick day or it's a mental health day where you just have to take care of yourself. So don't just skip to skip it. It's not worth it unless your professor says, all right, this scenario, it's towards the end of the semester, you completed your final, you completed all the work for the class, and your teacher states if you completed all this work, you don't have to show up to the next class meeting, because that will just be like a workshop day where it's for everyone to catch up and to complete whatever they need to complete to end the semester. If it's that scenario, then you don't have to go to class, because I had that last semester. So I was very thankful to finish my work early, so I was able to go home early for winter break. Is each class the same? No. This is where your syllabi will come in handy in college. I know in high school, middle school, I don't think maybe they do have in elementary, but you don't like have the first day sit through and go over. In college, you need to pay attention to your syllabi, because usually that's where all the homework assignments are, the information of essay topics, how to write your essays, what type of style you have to write your essays, the days you'll have class, the days where you might not have class, your attendance policy, how the grading system works for that class, because it's different per class. I found that out. Like an A and an A minus could be a difference between a 94, 93, and 92. So yeah. And there's other things as well, as like how many tests you'll have that semester, will you have a final, a midterm. This semester I don't have any midterms, but last semester I had one class with a midterm. Some of my finals got canceled because they were replaced with projects, or that class just didn't have a final, or it was a paper. That's what it was. We either had a paper, project, or an actual final. And then it also will state the office hours your teacher has. Some is scheduled by appointment, and some teachers actually have times where you could come into their office, and I even have teachers where it's Zoom office hours, so that's good to know, as well as your teacher's contact information if you need to send them an email, and how quickly they will send an email. Some teachers will have a 24-hour policy, but then I also have teachers where if it's a Friday and you send it after 5 p.m., they're not going to see it until Monday morning. And that's respectful in my sense, because these are professors who also have a life outside of school, and to give them the weekend of break from emails, sure, they may occasionally like open up their email, but it's not going to be as fast as it's during the school week. So keep that in mind. How do I know if I'm studying in the right major? If you're coming to college and rather you know what you want to do in your life, or you are still trying to figure things out, take your required classes to receive a major, meaning the curriculum, the core curriculum classes, your English class, your history, your math, your science, perspective, and then take a class in your major, as well as maybe, and a foreign language. So that's already 6 classes. And depending on how that is, that might be all you're able to take. But if you're able to take one more, then take a class where it's not any of the subjects you're currently taking, but it's a topic or subject that you're interested in. So for me, that's education. So next semester, I'm gonna take a class in education to see if I really want to add that to my degrees as a minor or a major. If you're unsure of your major, always talk to your advisor and ask for help, even if you're like, I don't know what I'm doing, can you help me? Because they will ask you questions that maybe you've thought of or maybe you haven't. You'll start to think of what you really want. So that's key. How to study. Studying, in my perspective, in your first semester of college, try to study at all the different locations you can, in an empty classroom, in your bedroom. I don't really suggest that because I think you should keep studying and sleep separate, and that's been proven by studies. But if you can't help it, then it's fine. Every once in a while it's fine. Going to the library, doing at a restaurant on campus or at the cafeteria or at the student center. If there's any place where you could be outside when the weather is nice, go outside, study there. Make sure you have Wi-Fi and all your materials. Like anywhere where there's a seat and a chair. Figure out if you like studying around people, where it's all right with the noise level, or if you need to get a room by yourself, because at least at my school in the library, there's rooms that we could reserve and check out basically, and you could reserve a room to yourself and study, or you could have a reserved room for group study, as well as trying different study tactics throughout the first semester. And keep in mind, you may have a different study tactic for each subject. So for last semester, for my psychology class, I just needed to know definitions. So I was making flashcards, I was using Quizlet flashcards to see, I was even writing down. So I would have the word and then I'll write down the definition, depending on how your test will be, if it will be online or would you have to write them, because right now I have a class where it's written and then I have another class where it's all online. There's a bunch of different study tactics. I have a friend who creates a song that helps them remember where each muscle is on the body for her anatomies class. If someone brings up a different study tactic that you haven't used before, you haven't heard, try it for a test or two. See if you like it. See if maybe you don't like the whole thing, but if you like an aspect of it, take that aspect and make it your own. And also have a set time of where on the weekends or after school, when that will be the time you're doing homework and you're studying. And meaning that's not when you're going to hang out with friends. That's the time you are going to do as much work as you can, even if that means going ahead or reviewing information. On the days you don't have that class meeting, meaning for me, I have my bio lecture on Monday and Wednesday. So Tuesday, Thursday, Friday, I study the information, I review the information that was presented Monday and Wednesday that week. So therefore, I'm always learning or refreshing my mind and keeping it updated with the information I learned in my bio lecture, even though I may not have that class that day. And therefore, when it comes to study for the test, I already put in a lot of work, so therefore I just have to make sure I truly know the information and see which points I need to focus on more and which ones are like, I have this under my belt, this is good to go, I know on the test I won't be second guessing myself. How not to fail college. First, know how much you could take on, meaning how many classes you could have, if you could take a job for your first semester, if You don't have to take a job. I suggest not, because it is a big adjustment, because you're trying to figure out what study tactics work for you, where to study, how to balance your social life and academic life, because it all depends on your semester. And yeah, so if you could help with not having a job, I suggest not as well, but also look at different clubs for your first semester. So balancing your time is key to not failing in college. But also another key is, don't look at not failing. Look at how could you succeed in college and switch that mindset. Because if you're focused on not failing, well, then that's all your brain is going to process the thoughts. But if you're focused on succeeding, then your brain is going to process thoughts of how to succeed or where to reach out for help. If you have resources at your college, use them. Your advisor, my college has a success coach, the career development center, the tutors. We have a writing center, we have a math center. For like the heavy science classes, sometimes there's a student who's already passed that class who is there to help the current students in that class to succeed. Take available of every research source you have to succeed. And if you don't know where to start, ask your advisor, hey, I need help with this, but I don't know who to go to, because they're there to help you succeed and help you to figure out whatever you need help on, even if that means it's not initially them, but they could point you to the right path of like, hey, reach out to this individual, they could help you more than I could. What is the workload like in college? So keep in mind, this is different for each individual depending on how many classes you have, the difficulty of the classes, if you have a job, how many clubs you're in, if you're in a sport, how your social life is, and each class, it depends. For the first week or 2 or 3 of each semester, you're trying to see how much each workload is for a class, and I could pretty much predict, being just finishing the 6th week of the semester, I could predict how many what the workload looks per class. For my theology class, I know I have readings due and reading notes due almost every class. But because I know that, I set a time of, I would look ahead and see if it's a reading, how many pages, if it's a video, how long is the video, and then the questions I would already have set aside and ready to write my answers. But I leave the questions to the end, but I take notes during the reading, during the video, so then the questions are easier to answer. For my math, I know I have to do surveys and the homework assignments whenever we finish the notes per lecture, and that means one week I only had one assignment due, because it took us some time to finish the notes for that lecture for 2.2, for example. For my social psychology's class, I just have to review the notes after each lecture to be prepared for the next lecture, and basically just preparing for the test after each class is all I basically have to do for that one, unless we have an in-class assignment that I need to take home to finish and return to my professor for the next class meeting. So it all just depends on your teacher and the classwork. One way that I help myself to keep organized is having a spreadsheet. Each class is correspond to a color, and I write the due dates a day ahead of when it's due. Therefore, I could see each color means a different class, and I have the title of the class, the assignment, the date, and how many points it's, and then if I completed it or not. And I just have it there, and even though it may change, it's much easier to add that information now than if I was starting from scratch and trying to figure out what I was doing. We're gonna have to make a part 2 of this video because there's a lot more questions, and I'm already at like 25-ish minutes, somewhat, almost 30 minutes. So there's gonna be a part 2 of where I ask more questions of the social and academic life, but intertwined. So yeah. And then in this other video, I'll also have more peer suggestions that I've gathered from my friends that are currently in college, either first, second, or third year. So it's a variety of students in their undergrad. So yeah, we'll see y'all next time. If you did enjoy, please subscribe and hit the notification bell so you know when a next college video is coming up, as well as leave a comment of what else you want to know. We'll see y'all next time. Bye, y'all. Academic portion, because oh my goodness. Okay, I don't know what went up here. Okay, how much free time do you have in college? Plan. That is falling.